After Hours continues on Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. This is also Bell Let's Talk Day, dedicated to changing and removing the stigma associated with mental illness. You need not stay silent. That's the message that you'll find at mindcheck.ca, the Vancouver Canucks initiative, the memory. Front of the movement. He's here to tell us about it, but before we get to that, got to find out if you're okay. The rookie, Ben Street, playing his first NHL game tonight for the Calgary Flames, caught you right on the schnoz.
Oh, in all fairness, I gave him a little chop on the wrist there right before, but with 10 seconds left in the game, that's the last thing that you want is an elbow in the chops. I couldn't even go and celebrate with my teammates after. I'm okay now.
You're okay.
Warrior.
Perfect.
You didn't have to go to the quiet room and sit
no
back.
No quiet room.
Okay,
I'm good to go.
All right, the website was launched just over a year ago. What can you tell us before we get to hockey talks about the inroads that mindcheck.ca has made?
Well, Mindcheck was relaunched actually a year ago in January. It's done very well since. We've had over 130,000 new visitors. Even more telling is the self-assessment quizzes that take a little bit of time to fill out. We've had over 56,000 people fill those out. Great feedback, and it's done a lot of good for a lot of people. I've had a lot of stories where people showed up to the rink during the lockout at UBC there and broke down in tears in my arms and thanked me for the work I've done with the website. It's not really me, but it's the website and all the help it's done. It's given these people a channel to use to get better. So it's been doing awesome.
And other than coming on shows like this, how do you keep the momentum going? I mean, now that people know where to reach out, they've got some interest in it. What are you going to do to keep pushing this forward?
Well, that was the thought process behind Hockey Talks. The initiative is a month-long awareness campaign, and like you said, it's 7 Canadian NHL cities. We're hoping to get to the point where it's all 30 teams participating next year, much like Hockey Fights Cancer. It's just continuing that conversation, like you said, continuing the momentum that we built last year, and continuing Rick's legacy.
And give credit where credit is due. It's a wonderful initiative, and T.C. Carling, who is the Vice President of Communications for the Vancouver Canucks, has had a lot to do with getting the other Canadian teams on board.
Yeah, TC's been phenomenal. Like you said, his idea from the beginning. He's been visiting schools province-wide, talking to kids, and his work doesn't stop. Rick confided in him and let him know that he wanted to reach out and help younger people suffering from mental health issues, and TC's carrying out his wish for him.
You knew Rick Rippon for, I think, about 2.5 or 3 years before he confided in you. Are you left to conclude that he didn't do it until 2.5 or 3 years into the friendship because of the stigma?
Only he knows that, but you got to think so. He was battling these issues for a long time, and he kept it to himself. That's what kind of guy he was. One of his biggest things is he didn't want to burden other people. He wanted to deal with things himself. He did for the most part, and he still made it to the best league in the world doing so. And once he thought he needed help, he reached out to me, and we got him the help we needed to.
Well, you mentioned before you found the impact it's had on some of the people and the stories that they finally, once they aren't afraid to come out and talk, tell you. What impact has that had on you in listening to that and being a part of that?
Well, it's definitely been an eye-opener. I've had to really educate myself in the last few years about mental health, and luckily there's been a lot of public figures come out and speak about it. Michael Landsberg's a big advocate of it, and he's done a lot of work through his show Off the Record. All we can continue to do is build the conversation and raise awareness, get rid of the stigma associated with it, keeping it to yourself. A great analogy was made that when you sustain an injury in hockey, you go into the trainer's room, doctors look at it, you get an MRI, surgery if need be, medication. Mental health isn't the same thing. People are keeping it to themselves, they're not voicing their issues, and they're not seeking help for it.
Yeah, but there is a similarity in that if you have an ear infection or a concussion, you require medication to get over the pain. Why wouldn't you take medication to deal with mental health issues, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not the expert, but every situation's different. Obviously, medication's one option, but it's not the only option.
Right. Here's a tweet from Joe Van Heer. Ask him if the Rippon Mindcheck T-shirts are still on sale online.
Yeah, well,
they're a popular item around here.
They are. Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me about that. Well, I think they are on sale still, and the Ricky Rip Foundation is actually online. Wes, his older brother, launched the website finally a couple weeks ago. They're selling merchandise online there, so you can check that out.
And you had Wes drop the puck here last week against Chicago, so you've remained close to the Rippon family. Let me ask you this. What do you think Rick would think of this dialogue?
He would think it's great. I don't think he'd want to be at the center of attention, but he'd be happy with the help it's doing. His big thing is he wanted to help out children. He was big in the community, and he wanted to help people suffering through the same illness.
The theme of Hockey Day in Canada is, or has been, heart. Did you ever see a player with more heart than Rick Rippon?
No, I don't think anybody in this building's ever seen a player with more heart. And you see all the David versus Goliath fights that he had against guys that are 6'7", 6'8". Just a fearless competitor and a great teammate. And the guys that play with him and the people that seen him play saw that every night.
All right, mindcheck.ca and Hockey Talk says the Canucks and all 7 Canadian teams fight the stigma associated with mental illness, and in so doing attach a whole lot of meaning to the life of the late Rick Rippon. Congratulations on your efforts, Kevin. Really appreciate it. All right, back to conclude the proceedings on After Hours from Rogers Arena in a moment.